inalienable rights of the Palestinian people to organise activities to be held during the year in cooperation with governments, relevant organisations of the United Nations system, intergovernmental organisations and civil society organisations. The objectives of the International Year of Solidarity with the Palestinian people would be to promote solidarity with the Palestinian people as a central theme, contributing to international awareness of the core themes regarding the question of Palestine, obstacles to the ongoing peace process, particularly to those requiring urgent action such as the settlements, Jerusalem, the blockade of Gaza and the humanitarian situation in the occupied Palestinian territories, and B, the mobilisation of global action towards the achievement of a comprehensive, just and lasting solution of the question of Palestine in accordance with international law and the relevant resolutions of the United Nations. Having said that, I'd like to hand over to Craig, who will take us through all of the acknowledgements of all people present today.
Thank you, Maria. And may I firstly say it's an honour to co-chair this organisation with you. Forgive me for pronunciation, faux pas right up front, but His Excellency Ambassador Izzat Abdulhadi, George Brown, Bishop George Brown. It's not in there as Bishop, but it is Bishop George Brown. Mr. Christopher Woodthorpe, the Honourable Susan Lay, who is obviously running a little late. His Excellency the Dean of the Council of Arab Ambassadors, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Morocco, Mr. Mohammed Mal Anin. His Excellency the Dean of the International Diplomatic Corps, Ambassador of the Argentinian Republic, Mr. Pedro Valdelegro Delgado. Delgado, the representative, the Dean of the African Group and the High Commissioner of the Republic of Botswana, Ms. Wam Desham Benoit. Coming. His Excellency Ambassador and the Head of the Delegation of the European Union, Mr. Sim Fabrizi. Mr. Thomas Albrecht, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Moira Kelly, who will talk to us later from the Global Gardens of Peace. And to all the many parliamentary colleagues that are in the room from a variety of backgrounds, and for fear of missing someone out, if I do put your hand up, Nick Xenophon, Mr. Giles walking in. Sorry, Stephen Jarkins, Christine Milne, sorry, the leader of the Greens. Sorry, Christine, I didn't see you there. And if I don't know your name, help me out too. Thank you. I'm brand new.
I gave him this job.
Senator, thank you for joining us. The member for Indi down the back of the room, sitting next to the member for Banks, David Coleman, Senator Lee Rhiannon as well. Have I missed anyone out?
Senator Gavin Marshall.
Senator, oh sorry, you're waving at me too.
No, I knew you wouldn't know.
Tony Zappia, sorry Tony, I didn't see you on the side there. So look, at risk of offending one, if I have missed you, I'm that new that I don't know the rules and regulations. But most importantly, thank you. Now I do believe that my next duty is to ask Melissa to speak.
Melissa Parks is known to all of you, a member from Mantle. She chairs the Parliamentary UN group, and we're actually doing this in conjunction with the Parliamentary UN group. And I'd like Melissa to come forward and say a few words about the importance of the International Year of Solidarity with Palestinian people.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Craig. Hello, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of the UN Parliamentary Group, I'd like to add our respects and acknowledgements to the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples. And also our thanks to everyone who's come here today, including so many members of the Diplomatic Corps, parliamentary colleagues, parliamentary staff and community members. This is a really important occasion, this celebration, this recognition of the UN International Year of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. And as someone who has lived and worked in Palestine, specifically Gaza, with the United Nations for 2.5 years, I feel passionately about this issue, as I'm sure everyone here does. Palestine attaining non-member observer status at the UN General Assembly in 2012 was an important step towards a goal that is almost universally shared, that of two states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. Israel, of course, already is an independent and sovereign state, but 21 years after the Oslo Accords, the Palestinians remain stateless. They continue to be subjected to military occupation and to see illegal settlements built on their land, settlements whose very purpose is to deny the Palestinians a viable state of their own. And this is why the settlements are condemned as illegal by the UN General Assembly, by the UN Security Council, by the International Court of Justice, by the International Committee of the Red Cross, and by the high contracting parties to the Geneva Conventions. For too long we've seen the dream of a two-state solution derailed by the actions of extremists on either side, when, as we saw during the Northern Ireland peace talks, we ought to be implementing the will of the majority for peace. Palestinians, like other human beings, have the right to their own nationality. They have demonstrated that they are ready for statehood, and let's hope that during this UN International Year of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, we can move further along the path towards the realisation of this goal and this human right. Thank you.
So I now wish to start our program with our first speaker. Our first speaker is Christopher Woolthorpe, the Director of the United Nations Information Centre here in Australia, New Zealand and South Pacific, based here in Canberra. Christopher was appointed by the UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon to this position in 2009, and prior to that, he spent a considerable amount of time in the United States and has had a distinguished career in the United Nations, and also holds a Master of Arts degree in Geography from Cambridge University. I thought that was very relevant. So, Christopher?
Thank you very much, Maria. I had a long list of acknowledgements as well, but I don't know. But I did want to recognise yourself and Craig for convening the Parliamentary Friends of Palestine group, and also Melissa for the chairing the UN Parliamentary group. I don't know if Susan May is here. I would like to note her, having been the previous co-convener of the Friends of Parliamentary Friends of Palestine. Pedro, Ambassador of Argentina, and also representing the African ambassadors, Bishop Jill Brown, members of Parliament, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to also acknowledge the Ngunnawal people, as Melissa had done, and the Ngambri people, the traditional custodians of the land upon which we meet today, and pay respects to the elders past and present. It really is great that we have such a wonderful turnout here today, and so many of you are in this room to mark this International Year of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. We've heard about the origins of the year from the General Assembly resolution of last year. I'm going to be reading you the Secretary General's statement for the launch of the year, but I would like to, just before I do that, thank those who have put today's event together. It's been quite a bit of work, and in particular I just wanted to note the staff of Maria's office, particularly Maya, and also the colleagues in Mr. Izzat Abdulali in the Palestinian General Delegation for the considerable work they have done in putting together today's event. So it's now my honour to read for you the UN Secretary General's statement that marks the International Year. Today marks the launch of the International Year of Solidarity with Palestinian people. This will be a critical year for achieving the two-state solution, bringing an end to the occupation that started in 1967, and securing an independent, viable and sovereign state of Palestine, living in peace and security with the State of Israel, where each recognises the other's legitimate rights. I call on all members of the international community, and in particular Israelis and Palestinians, to work together for justice and enduring peace. Israel and Palestine need to live up to their commitments to a negotiated two-state solution and resolve all permanent status issues, in accordance with the Security Council resolutions, the Madrid principles, the roadmap, the 2002 Arab Peace Initiative, and existing agreements between the parties. The leaders of Israel and Palestine will need political will, a sense of historic responsibility, and a clear vision for a better future for this and for future generations. I pledge to do my utmost in support of their efforts. So thank you all for listening to those words of the Secretary General, which he gave in launching the year earlier this year. Thank you.
It's now my great honour to introduce Ambassador Izzat Abdel-Hadi to say a few words, please.
I notice few words. Members of Parliament and Senators, His Excellency Pedro Vergara Delgado, Dean of the International Diplomatic Corps, His Excellency Mohammed Al-Aynay, Dean of the Council, Excellencies, Heads of all missions, Mr. Christopher Woodford, Director of the United Nations Information Center, Bishop George Browning, President of the Australian Palestinian Advocacy Network, APAN, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for being here today for the Australian launch of the United Nations Year of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. The Year of Solidarity has been called for by the international community to uphold the rights of Palestinian people to self-determination with a comprehensive peace. This Year of Solidarity is the will of the international community to end the occupation, which is entering its 47th year. 47th year of occupation. And to see a fully sovereign and fully independent, secure Palestinian state. We are living in critical times. The international community recognized that Israeli settlements threaten the viability of the Palestinian state and with it the two-state solution. On Friday, 21st of March, just 3 days ago, Catherine Ashton, speaking for the European Union, released a statement on Israel's latest settlement expansion. In the midst of negotiations which should be conducted in good faith, Israel has announced the building of 2,300 more settlement units. Catherine Ashton spoke unanimously for the 28 foreign ministers of the European Union, saying specifically and directly that Israel's action threatened the two-state solution and a peace agreement between Palestine and Israel. The statement concluded with these words from Catherine Ashton. A final peace agreement will bring huge benefits to both peoples. Such an historic opportunity should not be squandered. And we are all here today because the peace we all seek of a viable and fully sovereign, fully independent and secure Palestinian state with its ancient heritage of East Jerusalem as its capital, living alongside a secure independent Israel, unfortunately, is at risk. As many politicians and intellectuals have warned, in the two-state solution first, we have no idea what the future will hold. The 4.3 million Palestinian people in the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem will not leave their homes. We will not leave our land and our lives and our communities. We will not relinquish our rights. And yet Israel continues to expand settlements, to violate international law, United Nations resolution and international agreements, all actions that are the opposite of peace. As a friend of Israel, and in the context of negotiations, John Kerry recently warned Israel of the effect of its actions. He warned Israel that failure to reach a peace agreement with Palestine would damage Israel's capacity to a democratic state and could lead to more boycotts. The goal of the economic boycotts movement is the protection of the rights of Palestinian people and the enforcement of international law. The economic boycott movement, which is legitimately based in the authority of international law, which Israel is a signatory to, is growing, and it's growing in powerful arenas. The EU has introduced regulations barring deals with Israeli businesses based in West Bank settlements. The EU is enforcing its trade agreements with Israel and Israeli products from settlements, products which represent a significant portion of Israel's export to Europe, are excluded from the EU's beneficial trade agreements with Israel. Australia, as a friend of Israel, must, like John Kerry, speak truthfully about the effect of Israel's actions. And Australia must act in the ways that will create peace, not sit back while Israel destroys the possibility of peace for itself, for Palestine, and for the region. This year of solidarity is a worldwide call to uphold the rights of Palestinian people and the interest of peace. This year is a year to speak and to act in all of the ways that are open to us as organizations, as members of parliament and senators representing Australia electors, as communities, as heads of mission representing national governments, and as individuals to advocate for the implementation of all of the measures that will conclusively end the occupation and see the full creation of a Palestinian state. The opportunity is now. And I'm privileged to be here today with you to celebrate the launch of the United Nations Year of Solidarity for Palestinian people. I appreciate the leadership of Maria Van Vakino and the Craig Laundy of Parliamentary Friends of Palestine. I appreciate the previous leadership of Honorable Susan Day and her support for the just cause of Palestinian people. I'm grateful to Honorable Melissa Parr for her leadership of Parliamentary Friends of the United Nations and her support within Parliamentary Friends of Palestine. I extend my gratitude for the work of APAN and for the leadership of Bishop George Brown. I extend my gratitude for the work of all civil society organizations, business organizations, unions, faith-based organizations, solidarity groups, NGOs, and the Australian Palestinian community. I appreciate the work of all heads of mission whose governments uphold the right of Palestinian people to self-determination and advocate bilaterally and multilaterally for genuine peace and the two-state solution. I appreciate the constant and systematic support of my colleagues, the Arab ambassadors, who stand firmly for the Palestinian rights. As Palestinians, we are committed to peace. We are committed to negotiations conducted in good faith. Settlement building must stop. It is impossible to negotiate with an occupier who is stealing our state, while claiming to negotiate for peace. Israel does not need Palestine's endorsement of identity as a Jewish state. Palestine recognized the state of Israel 21 years ago in the mutual exchange of letters of recognition, which saw the commencement of the Oslo Accords, the creation of the Palestinian Authority, and the first return of Palestinian refugees from exile. We need our state. It's our right. Fully independent, fully sovereign, secure, and based on 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as capital. In this year of solidarity, it's not me asking you for this. The international community is asking the world and each of us in our capacities here in Australia to act together to make this a reality. The conclusive and just end of 47 years of occupation and the creation of genuine peace and lasting security for Palestine, for Israel, for the region, and for the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for those very passionate words, and your passion is not lost on anyone here. Next to, I've got a bio a page long which I won't read because he's better known to everybody, but Bishop George Brown, in a short time, has become a very close friend and advisor. I'd love you to come and say a few words. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, Members of Parliament, particularly Craig and Maria and Susan and Melissa, and my friends in the wider community. First of all, I apologise for my feet. They don't match today. My right one is okay, it's shiny and beautiful. My left one is in disarray. That's not a political statement, but it's just has something to do with my left foot at the moment.
Summer and winter.
Yeah. I represent a network of Australian civil society. We have in our membership people on the left and right of politics and in the centre. We have people who are Jews, Muslims and Christians. We have members of the union movement and of the business movement. We have academics and more or less the whole of Australian society is represented in our network. We're not politically aligned in Australia, nor are we politically aligned in the Middle East. We are an Australian civil society wishing to be in cooperation with a viable, strong Palestinian civil society. You've heard the problems rehearsed. The situation in the Middle East obviously is complex. To say it's not would be silly. It's complex because of the religions, the Jews, the Christians and the Muslims. We make life very complicated for people. We have done so for at least 2,000 years. And there are various claims to the land because of that. It is complicated because of the international community. Because, as you know, historically, the international community, not least the British, I'm a migrant from England, have had a say in which border people are to live on which side of the border they're to live on. So the problem is not simply one that can be solved either by the Israeli community or the Palestinian community on its own. It has to be solved in cooperation with the international community, and that is why you're here today. The Australian community has a role in an outcome which is just, equitable and fair in the Middle East. On the other hand, the situation is quite simple. It is complex, but it is also simple. And as you've heard today, it is simple because there is a major injustice. It's as simple as that. There is a group of people called Palestinians who for thousands of years have lived peaceably with other peoples in a small pocket of land on this planet Earth, who can no longer live peaceably on the land which has been historically their heritage. That is an injustice. And the injustice has been perpetrated not simply by a single people, but by an international people. And it has to be solved. It can't remain the way it is. The status quo cannot continue. For if the status quo does continue, it affects the peace and well-being of the whole global community. The reality is, we're not dealing simply with West Irian, as difficult as that is, or Timor, as difficult as that is. We're dealing with a pocket of the globe which focuses the whole world. And to solve this problem, I won't solve all the world's problems, but it actually has the capacity, if it is solved, to provide a way forward for the world. Because get your mind going at the moment. If it is possible for Jew, Muslim and Christian, Arab and Israeli, to live together peaceably, to share across academic, business, religious boundaries, to set up a civil society in which each contributes to the life of the other, where each is a blessing to the other. Can you imagine such a world? Well, my network imagines such a world, and that is why we exist. And we are looking forward to that outcome, in which we are a friend of Israel and we are a friend of Palestine. You don't have to choose. In fact, you must choose for both. You must not choose for one or the other. We're choosing for an outcome which is just and fair and which imagines a world in the 21st century where people do not compete with each other but cooperate with one another. Where we have a desire for an outcome in which we see the best in one another and respect each other. It is possible. It is possible. A solution is possible. We know what that solution is. It's based upon 1967 boundaries with a land swap, where the rights of people to return are respected, where East Jerusalem is the capital of a Palestinian state. We know roughly what the solution is. But we have to have a political will. where we go across the prejudices and the difficulties which we've inherited from our forebears and which sadly we continue to pass on to one another. I have had to learn as a Christian leader to have profound respect for and a listening ear to my brothers and sisters in the Jewish and Islamic community. And I consider myself now to be one who sees the justification myself as a Christian leader on the basis of the conversation that I'm able to have with my brothers and sisters in the Jewish and the Christian and the Jewish and the Muslim community. And so I say to those of you who are Palestinian, Arab or Israeli, you must understand that your future lies in the respect that you can give to your neighbour and to the other. So today, I think this is where overall the Australian people stand. We are not interested in supporting the status quo. We're not interested in supporting a situation where one powerful group exercises complete control over another, tells them where to live, whether they can have electricity or not, whether they have water or not, whether their children can go to school or not, whether pregnant women get to hospital or not. That situation is disrespectful to the one who has the power, let alone it is disrespectful to the people who are made to suffer as a consequence. So I'm here today in solidarity with the Palestinian people, believing in a future which actually can set forward a vision for the world. It's as big as that. And please God that you're all on side with this, and particularly you, my brothers and sisters in the Australian Parliament, that you're on side. That you do not carry prejudices one way or the other, but you see a future in which the Palestinians have a viable state, in which their civil society can flourish, their children can go to school without fear, and in which the Israeli community similarly stands beside the Palestinian community in a peaceful and harmonious way. This is the future to which I'm looking forward to, and that is why today I'm very proud to stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people whose villages I have met, I have lived in, whose people I admire, and whose future I long for in hope. Thank you very much.
It's a good leeway into our final speaker this afternoon, Maura Kelly, who's probably known to a lot of us here in Australia, but also internationally, for the tremendous amount of work that she does in helping children that come from war-stricken countries and poverty, helping them and bring them to Australia for urgent medical attention. Maura is here to speak to us a little bit about the project that she started last year, the Global Gardens of Peace, which is an apolitical Australian charity. Maura established this charity with the vision to create children's gardens in communities that have experienced incredible hardship as a result of war and natural disaster. The charity commenced in 2013, but its origins go back to 2004 when Maura visited Gaza in Palestine on a humanitarian trip and despaired at the lack of green space and safe play areas available to the children. In 2013, a Global Gardens of Peace delegation visited the region to secure a site of 20,000 square metres in Khan Yunis, a municipality of Gaza City, in order to create this Garden of Peace. And I'll hand over to Maura and allow her to say a few words about her project. Thank you.
I'm honored to be here today, and especially I want to welcome two of my delegates here from Global Gardens. I'll probably briefly tell you, because we are having our launch tomorrow here at Parliament House, so I'll just briefly tell you how it all came about. I've been bringing many children to Australia for surgery from all over the world, and having lived in Bosnia for 4.5 years during the war, that's when I saw the trauma of children. So I used to take kids to America and Austria and Ireland and Australia. It was during one of my journeys here with Philip Sucker in Gaza. We were picking up some children and dropping some children into Gaza. And on our journey there, they invited us, well, you want to see something in the city of Gaza? I said, oh yes. So we ended up in a graveyard. And that was one of our tourist sites. And I said, okay, why are we here? Because there's Australians and New Zealanders and British soldiers. So as we went into this oasis, behind this fence was trees everywhere. The grass was this thick. I didn't see a tree in the Gaza at all. And behind this fence, it was so peaceful. It was actually the most peaceful place in Gaza. And you couldn't even hear the nonsense going up the street, and you couldn't hear the cars. So I shook my head and just couldn't work out why was this possible. And I believe every single one of you here would have done what I would have done. You would have walked out there as an Aussie and thought, my God, isn't it amazing you can do that for the dead, but why can't we do it for the living? So I'm not a gardener, don't claim to be anything brilliant in that area at all, and that's when you bring the expertise and great other fellow Australians to come on board. So it's a Melbourne girl with a crazy idea, and a Philip Sucker here who supported me. So I came back to Melbourne, but before I left, I actually popped in and saw the Palestinian Authority before I left, and I said, look, before we left, they thanked us and welcomed us and bringing the children and taking more children to Australia for surgery. And I said, can I just ask you a question? Do you have any land here in the Gaza Strip? I'm from Australia, and on behalf of my Australian people, if you give us some land, we'll build you a garden. So on behalf of all my country, with no permission, I said, we'll build you a garden. And they looked at me and said, Miss Kelly, do you not realise we're the most densely populated place on the face of the earth? I said, I do. However, the sea's got to start somewhere. I said, you've got a great graveyard over there. You need something like that for the kids who are alive, not just the people who have died. So anyway, they all thought it was a bit silly, and off I went. And a couple of years later, I was in Melbourne, and it was a time I had Trishan and Krishna, you may remember the conjoined twins, and I was in lockdown at the time because I couldn't risk infection, so no one could come and see me and come near me. And Philip rang me and said, Moira, there's someone from Palestine here, and they got an envelope from you from the authority. And I said, oh, really? I said, look, this is bad timing, Philip. I can't possibly do this, and I can't have them. Moira's really important. They said, they're not going to go back to Palestine. I said, meet you. So we arranged to meet in the front room, and handed me an envelope. And in this envelope was a title of land. And I said, my God, I don't have land in Australia. How the hell do I have land in Gaza? I said, there must be something wrong. I said, Moira Kelly's land, Gaza. And they said, oh, but you said you'd build us a garden. I said, but you people can take me very serious. Oh no, on behalf of our government, I'm handing this land, and the Australian people will build this garden. And I looked at it, oh my God, what have I done now? And I said, this is really bad timing. Look, it's a really long story, but I'm in the middle of conjoined twins. This is really not a good time. But if you can bear with me for a couple of years or a couple of months when I get through this, I'll look into it. So 6 months after the girls' separation, I rang up Philip, made a phone call with Landscape Victoria, and the CEO seemed to think it was a good idea, and they rang up Botanical Gardens in Melbourne. See, good works attracts good people, and good people attract good work. There's nothing political here. This is really just a place for children and families. And basically, we're here in Canberra this week because we're going to launch it tomorrow. It's taken us about 18 months, we're registered, but the guys in the Botanical Gardens in Melbourne are going to replicate this to the Children's Garden in Melbourne to Gaza. It's phenomenal what they've done. I can't take any claim there. They've done a phenomenal job. And this is a gift that maybe we can do and give to the Gaza people. A lot of people in the world have offered our foundation to get involved and donate money, but I don't want them. I want this from Australia. I want this a gift from Australia, from our people, my brothers and sisters from this country, to the people of Palestine. So we're going to launch it tomorrow. If you're in the house, you're very welcome to come and see the plans and more about our work. And I'm a great believer in life. Sometimes you've got to do what's right, not what's popular. So God bless you all, and I hope that you can take this home with you and talk about this over your dinner tonight with whoever you're going to have dinner with. God bless and thank you.
Thank you very much, Moira. Before I hand over to Craig, Moira's idea of the garden is fabulous, and it's obviously going to require a lot of support, including financial support. So, being a politician, I'm just going to put a plug in for people who are here who may have access to possibility of gifting funds to make the garden a reality. So, having said that, I think there's some question and answers. Is that right?
Yeah. If we...
I don't know how we're going to do this, but who wishes to take questions and who wishes to ask them, and we've got a few minutes to do so.